5 years, 3 job paths, 1 Elboy, 1/5 of a renewal. Okay, that last one didn't really work, but the point is, Elboy made his debut in North America almost 5 years ago, and aside from a few small tweaks, he's remained largely the same. But now he's the first of our 10 characters to actually be renewed. What exactly does renewal mean? Well, I'm sure you all know already, but who would I be if I didn't tell you anyway? The biggest component of the renewal is that all skill trees have been changed from, well, a single branch to a hunking amorphous blob. You now no longer have to choose between, say, Moonlight Rhapsody and Gravity Buster. Or at least you won't have to once Ad's Renewal hits North America. Your only restrictions on the availability of a skill are whether or not your level is high enough and whether or not it's locked. Yeah, that's still a thing. For Elboy, this means that you no longer have to choose between Rising Wave and Rising Slash, for example, which is a decision I personally had difficulty with. However, decisions like this one would no longer be necessary anyway, since Rising Wave has been entirely deleted from Runeslayer's new build. What I'm trying to say here is that while you're no longer forced to choose one skill over another, some skills have been removed or moved to different levels, so the choice may not exist anymore anyway. And it means you get every passive too. At least, every one that you have the level for. This is awesome, especially for someone like Runeslayer, whose Sword Enchant active is now a passive that activates all the freaking time, baby. It's awesome. The last notable difference in the skill tree is that every skill now lets you pick one of 2 traits for each active. They vary quite significantly from increasing attack power to reducing knockdown. Now, with that out of the way, I'll start by noting that this is more of an editorial rather than a review, since it's difficult for me to factually compare characters pre-renewal and post-renewal. Just about everything here is anecdotal and approximately 37.8% biased. Now let's cut to the chase. To be fair, I don't have a lot of experience with Lord Knight, so it's difficult to compare his pre- and post-renewal states. A lot of it is familiar compared to what he had pre-renewal, at least in terms of mechanics and function, but there were quite a few changes too. Notably, he received extended moves on the end of some base combos, and he did get one new one that lets him perform an aerial rolling dive, which I absolutely loved spamming against both mobs and bosses. As for skills, Armageddon Blade is even more godly now, as it has a highly increased chance of critical hits, and can be enhanced to last longer. Sandstorm was also improved considerably in range, number of hits, and so on. In fact, pretty much all of Lord Knight's skills got a significant buff for improvement, and these changes are significant enough to be noticeable. It might have been a long time since I played Lord Knight before the renewal, but I can definitely tell that the moves were beefed up a little. What I can't really compare fairly is the actual gameplay. I find Lord Knight is much faster, slicker, and regens way more MP than the last time I played him, but this could be due to memory failure as easily as it could be the difference in level since the last time I played him. All in all though, I definitely enjoy playing Lord Knight now, enough that I might even consider picking him over Infinity Sword at some point. Speaking of which, Infinity Sword really hasn't changed much from his pre-renewal state. I enjoyed him somewhat before, but his style got old quite quickly. The combos didn't age well, and he started to become so not versatile that his tactics and playstyle were quite thin. For me, anyway. With his renewal, his style is very much the same. I feel like I'm pulling off all the same combos as before, with no real change to how I play or what I accomplish. In fact, I think the only concrete additions to his combos were the addition of Sword Rain and the addition of Super Arm when performing his Rolling Slash. Don't get me wrong, they're good additions, but they should be 2 of many, not 2 of 2. I've played around with his skills and find that my 8 skill layout is actually just about the same as before, with a few tweaks. I no longer use Rage Cutter, for example. Instead, I use Maelstrom Rage. Final Strike is one skill which I feel has vastly improved. When I first played Infinity Sword, I wanted to like this skill. It had a very cool effect and was good at bringing in lots of enemies and dealing lots of hits, but it had a few fatal flaws in it, so I couldn't justify keeping it instead of Phantom Sword. Now, not only do I get to keep both thanks to the new skill tree, but Final Strike has been vastly improved to the point where I'm super glad I get to keep both. I also like Swordfall much better now, as it's much faster and seems to do significantly more in the way of effective damage. And this is the general trend with Infinity Sword. He's a bit more responsive in his skills, and overall, he does a bit more damage. Enough to keep up better with some of the heavier hitting classes, which is awesome. So if you like your Infinity Sword already, then you'll probably keep liking him after the renewal. With that said though, if you had hoped for the renewal to breathe new life into your Infinity Sword, I'm afraid you might be disappointed. That honor actually seems to be reserved for Runeslayer. I went through some of this in the Runeslayer renewal video I did a couple weeks ago. To reiterate, awesome new combos, sweet passives, and all the skills feel more powerful. Runeslayer dominates now. And I'm not being facetious here. After the 59 episodes and off-camera grinding I did with Runeslayer, I was actually quite bored with him. He knocked down doing a lot of combos that I felt were natural, and his movement felt so restricted and clunky that I found it hard to navigate around big enemies without just spamming --ZZX. Craziac has some problems. Now, Runeslayer has new combos that let you dash through or launch your enemy better than before, allowing much more control of the battlefield. It's wonderful. And oh my good golly gee whiz, I can do Runeslayer's ZZZZ combo without knocking down. It's like heaven. Oh yeah, let's just replay that for a moment. As a major proponent of Stormblade, I love how it's been updated. It's not a significant change, but aside from the minor visual update, it just feels so much nicer to use. It feels like it gets enemies into the blades better and does more damage once they're there. Rising Slash seems to also be significantly more powerful. In general, I feel like I do loads more damage and get loads better combo scores. Whereas I would get A or sometimes S on Lennox dungeons, now I can typically get S or even double S with just as much ease as my Deadly Chaser. One thing I will say about Runeslayer is that I'm having trouble settling on a build for him. Whereas before I had little issue picking my skills, I'm now torn over whether or not to get things like Rising Slash or Windblade. They're fantastic skills, but I need to make sure that my build is balanced for MP usage, as well as active versus special active balance. More so than with Infinity Sword, I feel like I'm having to ignore skills that would otherwise be awesome picks. But I think this somewhat speaks to how much I think Runeslayer has improved. Previously, I was having a hard time finding skills that were effective with my playstyle. Now I'm having a hard time determining which 8 skills to keep. It's a close call, but I feel like Runeslayer is the best of the 3 here. And no, not just because he started in 59 of my episodes and counting. From what I could tell of my experience with all 3, he felt the most significantly modified in the Renewal, and after playing all 3, Runeslayer is definitely the one I enjoy most. But like I said, that result is approximately 37.8% biased, so make of that what you will. And that's all for the Elboy Renewal. Like I said, this video was a little more opinionated than most, but hopefully it's at least provided some valuable information to all you Elboy players out there. Unfortunately though, that's all I got for now, so feel free to check out some of my other videos on the screen if you so desire. Until next time guys, I'll see you later.